All right, so I want to talk a little bit about the debate last night. I think a lot of people are completely missing a lot of things. Um, and again, I've been watching CBC a little bit this morning, and as usual, it's just complete and utter garbage, like complete and utter garbage. I mean, here's as far as my ratings, I would say Trump got like a 7 or 8 out of 10. I think he was good, but he wasn't perfect. Biden was actually a little better than I thought, but only for the simple reason that I thought, and I think a lot of people probably thought that Biden would have a major gaffe. He didn't really have a major gaffe towards the start of the debate. He was clearly rather flustered, and towards the end of the debate, he was starting to forget stuff. He was kind of slurring his words and forgetting what he was, going to say and all this kind of stuff. So Biden maybe like a 3, Trump like a 7. But again, I mean, the big thing coming out of the debate was number one, the biggest criticism of Trump is he refused to condemn white supremacy. Well, you I just rewatched the clip because CBC just played it, and they couldn't actually give him an example of definitive white supremacy, right? Like they couldn't give him the best thing they could come up with the Proud Boys, and as far as I'm aware of, the Proud Boys are not a white supremacist group. I mean, I believe one of their leaders, if not their top leader, is a Hispanic guy. So the idea that they're a white supremacist group, maybe there's evidence of it, but considering the fact that none of these people have given any definitive proof of it, I don't believe it. So again, given that that was the biggest criticism of Trump coming out of the debate, I think he did pretty good. Um, a lot of the other big thing is, oh, it was chaotic and it was a mockery. And here's the thing on that. I really can't stand these people, and this is something from both sides because I see a lot of conservatives, if almost as many conservatives, complain about this. They're like, oh, Trump, he's too bombastic and all this kind of stuff. Well, you have two politicians. One of them is super timid, like an Andrew Scheer type, the guy that's never going to talk over anyone. He's never going to interrupt anyone. He's never going to step on anyone's toes. Never. Would you rather have that guy, or would you rather have the guy that maybe goes a little too far over the line, but not that far? Like Trump is the kind of guy, maybe he goes a little bit too over the line, but he never goes that far. If you have someone in a meeting with world leaders or negotiating trade deals, which person do you want? Do you want the person that's going to stand up for themselves, or the person that isn't? I mean, look how it turned out. Trump has as much support now as he's ever had. Andrew Scheer got beaten rather easily by Justin Trudeau, right? Even though Justin Trudeau was one of the weakest incumbents in a long time. So these people trying to criticize Trump for that, I really, really do not get it. Like, and these are the same people that complain about this kind of stuff. Like, they complain about the career politicians that have these, same bland personalities, but yet you're shocked and appalled when someone like a Trump comes along. Like, I really don't get it. Like, which one do you want? Like, you complain endlessly about this one type of person, and then someone different comes along and you complain about them more. Like, I don't get it. So that's insane. And the next big thing is the fact that the moderator was clearly biased in favor of Biden. I mean, and not to mention too, I think people on both sides didn't like the moderator either. I think the left didn't like it more because they wanted him to go after Trump more, but the right didn't like it because he's clearly biased, right? And I'll give you some definitive examples of this. The moderator did not let Trump make one false claim. I don't believe he did. He made very many. I think Trump doesn't usually outright lie. His way of going about things is just exaggerating the truth, right? Like the good example is he thinks, oh, the greatest economy ever, well, or in history. Well, no, it was a good economy. It definitely was a good economy, but it wasn't the greatest, right? So that's Trump's ways of doing things. He kind of exaggerates, but that's not outright lying. Biden absolutely outright lied about a lot of things. Number one, the whole Antifa thing. Antifa is not just an idea. Like, that's absolute bunk. And the fact that the moderator didn't call him out on that, that's very obvious bias. The other thing would be Biden lying about his son, and not to mention multiple times. He lied about the getting money from the Russian, the Moscow mayor's wife or whoever it was. He lied about that. He lied that he wasn't dishonorably discharged. He lied about the pretty much everything when it comes to Hunter, right? Like he lied about pretty much every one of those things. And again, the media, the moderator didn't call him out on any of that kind of stuff. You're watching on CBC, they didn't fact check any of that kind of stuff. I noticed that like towards at the start of the debate, CBC kind of just let it play, and towards the end, they're starting to fact check stuff, right? But they never brought up anything Biden lied about, right? So yeah, I don't think the debate was good, and which is exactly why Joe Rogan should do a debate. Like I think Joe Rogan, when it comes to politics, is pretty bad as well. But he's a lot better than the mainstream media, right? Like and I think he would do a better job of this, because the problem with these debate formats is I'm going to ask you especially when it comes to Trump, I'm going to ask you a totally loaded question. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to answer. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to answer, right? It's stupid, right? Like some of these things need to be talked about for 5, 10, 15 minutes, right? And which is exactly why they should do a Joe Rogan debate. The problem with that again is that Joe Biden would never do it, because he would get destroyed, because he needs the mainstream media to be and the moderators to be able to bail him out. So again, those are kind of the main thoughts. Again, the other big thing too I have pulled up here from Ramesh Ponnuru. I don't know how you pronounce that, but nonetheless, he made a good point that I picked up on as well. Um, Biden, I don't support the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal will pay for itself. I don't support the Green New Deal. Now again, this is the classic just crazy hypocrisy and just stupidity of these leftists, is that on one hand the Green New Deal will pay for itself, then why don't you support it? Like, why don't you support it? It's just pure insanity, right? Like, it's pure insanity. And again, that's just more. And here's the other thing too. When it comes to Trump, I think he should have really pressed Biden a little bit more on some of these kind of things. I think that there's a lot of examples where Trump didn't go far enough. He should have really pressed him more, because if you actually describe to people what the Green New Deal actually is, then the vast majority of people are going to be against it. You know, the average person hears Green New Deal and thinks, oh, we're going to save climate change, right? But that's not really what it is. The real goal is to push socialism. And not only that, it's going to cost like $90 trillion, right? Like more money than literally exists in the world by far. So yeah, that's another thing Trump should have did. Um, I think when it came to climate change, I think that's the only thing that Trump actually kind of took a misstep on. I think the whole white supremacy thing is absolute bunk. It's complete garbage. And again, even if you want to claim that that's the truth, they should have forced Biden to condemn Antifa, right? Because Antifa is a far greater threat than white supremacy is. Like, look at Antifa's killed what, how many of the people have of the Black Lives Matter riot murders have been Antifa? I think it's a decent amount of them. I mean, we're looking at 50, 60 people. Now, all of those aren't Antifa, but a lot of them are. Um, who has white supremacists killed again? Like, has the Proud Boys killed one? I don't think they've given an example of one person the Proud Boys have killed. In fact, the only examples that they can give of the Proud Boys doing anything violent is almost always when Antifa antagonizes them, and that is something that Trump brought up as well, that he was definitively right about as well. So again, the fact that the best thing that they could come up to criticize Trump with is the stupid made up racism garbage, you can tell that he did a good job. Like, you can tell that he did a good job. And I mean, when it comes to Trump too, like, would I vote for him? Yes, but I think there's a lot of stuff to criticize him on, which is the reason why I know when people are actually genuine or not, is because um, Trump does a lot of things. Sorry, there's a lot of stuff that you can legitimately criticize Trump for. There's a lot of things. But the fact that the mainstream media never actually brings them up, and the fact that, you know, Joe Biden and Wallace didn't bring any of them up, just goes to show that he's actually a lot more clean than we think, right? So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff to criticize him on, but I think he's still the clear better candidate. And again, the fact that Biden refused to condemn Antifa, which is a clear far greater threat. Imagine if Trump's. I mean, not only did Biden not condemn them. He said they don't even exist, right? Like imagine what people would be saying if Trump said white supremacy doesn't even exist, like white racism doesn't even exist. They would be all over him 10 times as much as they are right now. So again, it's just pure hypocrisy, just garbage. And when it comes to how the debates should be done better, well, number one, the moderators need to be honest. And number two, they need to stop with this mumbo jumbo, 2 minutes for this and 2 minutes for that. And no, let's just let them talk, right? And the moderator needs to actually moderate, right? Like I think the goal of the moderator was to make Trump appear to be, because Trump's going to do it, right? Like Trump's going to do it. The goal was for him to antagonize him because he knew that if he did, Trump would start antagonizing Biden, which would just blow the whole thing to kingdom come. So yeah, that's kind of what I think. But again, the main take home point being is that I really don't get all these people that are like, oh, Trump's too bombastic. Who cares? Do you want a politician that is a little bombastic but gets things done, or do you want someone that's all timid and not, never going to offend anyone and never going to raise their voice and never going to interrupt anyone who doesn't get anything done? Which one do you want? Anybody with half a brain should be saying the guy who's a little bombastic, right? Because when you're negotiating with world leaders, oftentimes they don't care about you. They want what's best for their country. And if you don't have someone who's going to put your country first and foremost, you're going to get walked all over and you're going to get screwed, right? Like, this is exactly what happens with, Canada and China, because Justin Trudeau likes communism, so he lets them do whatever they want pretty much to us. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. Again, I don't have notes or anything. There's probably some stuff I'm forgetting, but nonetheless, I guess the take home point being is number one, I don't think that it was as crazy as what people think. Um, and number two, I don't really understand people's criticisms of Trump. Now, again, am I a huge fan of it? Do I think people should be like that? Not necessarily, but if you had to pick between the timid, never going to raise their voice, never going to interrupt politician, and someone like Trump, you're going to pick Trump, right? And not to mention too, like nobody had any problems with Biden interrupting Trump either. Like I find it very ironic. And people say, "Oh, Trump interrupts more." Well, again, Trump interrupts more because the moderator's biased against him, right? And again, we people say, "Oh no, that's not true." Well, yeah, it is true, given the fact that the moderator let Biden outright lie multiple times, and they wouldn't even let Trump make claims that were definitively true. Like, I mean, the other thing being too is that um, Biden made the claim, "Oh, under my healthcare plan, you can keep your private insurance." Well, that maybe that is your plan, but the majority of your base don't want that to be the case, right? And that's what Trump was also trying to bring up, I believe. So, yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to bring up today. So if you like the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you follow me on Twitter mainly, but also BitChute and Parler. Those links are in the description, so you can find them all there.